Hi, this is Mason. It's 11 o'clock in the morning in Syracuse, and we're live in the 315. Here's Brian Higgins.
It is 11 o'clock in the morning. We are in Syracuse, close enough. Camera's slightly askew. Let's uneskew. Let's straighten out. Welcome in here on this Monday. Man, oh man, like I re-askewed the camera. Oh boy. Disaster fest to start the show. Just an absolute disaster to start the show as we welcome you in live in the 315 here on a Monday morning. What's up, Kev? What's up, everybody? Great to have you in here on this Monday. Lots to get to. Lots happened. We're just rocking. Boom, 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 boom. Stuff is going on. We had a little basketball game on Saturday. Syracuse beating Notre Dame. We gave you a little post-game show for that. We had a little lacrosse game yesterday. We gave you a little post-game show for that. We got a little basketball game coming up tonight down in the Triangle in Chapel Hill. You guessed it. Post-game show coming up for that tonight. Cuse, Carolina, 7 o'clock. Big Monday will be with you live right here 9-ish after the game. What else do we got? Today's show, we're going to look back at hoops. We're going to look back at lax. We're going to look ahead to tonight. We'll get you a little no wrong answers for Cuse and Carolina here this evening. What's up, T-Takes? And the much anticipated second, should I call it an installment? It's not really an episode because we are in the episode of Live in the 315. This is the episode. It feels like it's more than a segment. A segment feels almost demeaning to what Who's Next is. But the next installment of Who's Next coming up later, where we explore the potential successors to one Adrian Red Autry. And yeah, I understand. And we do this with all due respect. Right? What's the thing they say about everything you say before, with all due respect? With all due respect to Red, and with all due respect to the win against Notre Dame over the weekend. As I said last week, and as there was pushback, apologies could come my way at any point for this, for explaining to y'all mid last week as Syracuse got ready for that game on Saturday that Notre Dame was in fact crap. And I think that played out pretty effectively. Syracuse played well. I think there's a lot to explore in that game that can be transferred over against good opponents, or at least the attempt of it. But Notre Dame is one of the lower echelon teams in the league, and Syracuse took care of their business. They were favorites at home on Saturday, and they won the game reasonably easily down the stretch on Saturday. You know, dips. Not many, if any, levels, good levels. I don't know if it was 5, but a good level, whatever the level is, good level on Saturday. So we liked what we saw at Syracuse. And to address this side of things, there's now, because we're all talking about what's coming after Red now, and that's been a constant conversation. We've got Who's Next. We've got all the things we're talking about going forward. Now there's some people that are like, oh, well, Syracuse fans aren't even enjoying the win on Saturday. And I think that may be the case for some. I don't think it's the case for most. I think people still would prefer Syracuse to win the games. Like there's a vocal minority, it feels like, that are concerned that if Syracuse now somehow, because they won one game, starts winning too many games, that Red will stay on as head coach. Well, here's the thing. If they start winning too many games, that means they're good again, and he should stay on as head coach. And realistically, just because they won one game, I'm not going to let it sidetrack us from our exciting new segment of Who's Next, because it was met with just a critical acclaim last week. Though it would be hilarious if they go on a run and Red keeps his job, and then we just keep doing this segment for years on end. Like Red turns into a Hall of Famer, and we're on our 5,000th coach naming who might replace him, and he's just here for the rest of the time. That would be good shtick. But, the probabilities all seem to point in the other direction as of now, so we'll get into that later in the show. As always, link pin top of the chat if you'd like to join us here on this Monday. check out our fine sponsors. There's the 10% off code on the screen right now for Simply Sweet Sisters, Brian 315. I can tell you that the new candle collection is it's in the making, and Simply Sweet Sisters is going to be out and about. Check out their social media pages this weekend. They got an event in Marcellus on Saturday, and one that's not in Marcellus on Sunday. I've forgotten where it is. But it's at a place with buildings and walls and ceilings and the whole thing. So check that out. Find the Simply Sweet Sisters social media pages for all of the answers on that. So as we get into our week here, we'll get back to the hoops here. We got Who's Next coming up. Again, link pin top of the chat if you'd like to pipe in with any thoughts, concerns, or otherwise. I do enjoy what we did yesterday. It was kind of a little test run for our lacrosse postgame show because, we hadn't done lacrosse postgame show before. It's one where obviously I broadcast the lacrosse games for many, many years. Those broadcasts inherent to themselves did have a postgame show. And I think W8ER does a postgame show and whatnot, but it's not one where there's just an overabundance of post-game shows as there are for football and basketball on various media entities about town. So I said, well, we gotta give it a go, right, just to see. And we had a very nice crowd yesterday, and it seems to be spreading a little bit online after the fact, which at least early stages tells me that we should do more of them. I still gotta get into that schedule. I gotta dive into that lag schedule. I'm in far enough to know this. Lacrosse this coming Saturday in the Dome against St. Joe's, the opening face-off is high noon. Basketball this coming Saturday, the opening tip-off at John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, high noon. So what that is telling me is that we're going to be doing a basketball post-game show on Saturday, but we'll keep like one eye, maybe the right eye, on the lacrosse game. Just based on average game length, the basketball game should end slightly before the lacrosse game. We'll see. We'll talk basketball during the post-game show. We'll see if there's an appetite amongst the basketball crowd for a little lax talk as well. But we'll do something on Saturday. We'll do it up nice. And then next Friday the 13th, Syracuse is hosting Maryland in the Dome. That's a 6 o'clock face-off. So let's go. Let's giddy up on that. Like we need that. That's a game that requires a post-game show. That's two teams in the top three right now. That's a game that requires conversation, breakdown, potential anger and commiseration afterwards. We'll just have to see where that goes. And then the Ivy League games at the end of the month. We still need to make sure they're being televised anywhere so we can actually watch them. So we'll figure that out. But we'll get that going here in the upcoming. So no official post-game show for the lacrosse game on Saturday, though because the game is at the same time as basketball, we'll discuss, and then we'll chop it up, post-game it up for Syracuse and Maryland next Friday night, the 13th. What's up, Jen? Welcome in here on this Monday. All told, lax yesterday. Syracuse was solid. It's a 13-6 win over BU. Boston is they're a good team. They're a team that's, they've been back into the top 20 good for the last 4 or 5 years, give or take. They've made the tournament, I think, once, maybe twice in there. Like, they're a solid club. They're not great, but they're solid. They threw the 10-man ride, which is no longer as exotic as it used to be. I find it's funny in lacrosse. You always must compare lacrosse things to things in other sports. The Tewaaraton Award is the Heisman Trophy of college lacrosse. The 10-man ride is the full court press of college lacrosse. So there you go. There's your sport-to-sport metaphor relationship for lacrosse today. So BU threw that at Syracuse. Syracuse struggled with that, and because of that, the game was kind of wacky and a little bit loose. And again, it's the season opener. Things like that happen. I'll be very intrigued to see, looking forward to Saturday, because Gary said after the game that St. Joe's, the opponent on Saturday, also employs similar tactics. Did you improve game 1 to game 2? So that'll be something certainly to keep an eye on Saturday. And my guess is here, knowing Gary, knowing how that noodle of his operates at least a little bit, it's hard to get in there with Gary. That is one smart dude. He's got technology upon technology. He's got tablets going to screen. He's designing stick heads over here, and there's a lot going on upstairs in Gary Yates' noggin. But knowing the schedule that's upcoming and the fact that some point down the line in like a game that really matters, you're going to have to deal with that kind of defense. At some point, Notre Dame employs it a lot as a team that has won the national championship twice here recently. So, why not start the season with it, jump into the at least the middle end of the pool. Can the middle be an end? And then now you're ramping up. 2 of your next 3 games are against the top 2 teams in the country preseason in Maryland and Princeton. Then you're off into it. A couple other observations. John Mullen, one of, if not the best faceoff guy in the country. He was, as advertised yet again, yesterday. If he remains healthy, Syracuse will be in good shape. You would like to see them find somebody on the roster just to take the load off a little bit, right? Like Angelo was in there yesterday and didn't win any in 3 attempts. It would be nice to find somebody to take the load off. You think back to 2 years ago when Mullen was a freshman, he took more and more as the season went along, as Mason Cone, who would come in out of Tufts, kind of, I don't want to say went in the background, but then you had 2 guys. Last year, Mullen took almost all of them, at least every face-off of importance all year, set all of the volume face-off records for Syracuse, and he was healthy to the end. But with face-off guys, I always think back to Ben Williams' career now a decade ago. They get the ever-living crap beat out of them. And if you don't have somebody to give the guy a rest, it can be a problem at the end of the year. Syracuse's opponent coming up a week from Friday, Maryland, they and John Tillman are one of the better teams in the country, of always just seeming to have like a bushel of guys, and then you're fresh and ready to go come May. So we'll see how that all plays out. Joey Spallina remains good at lacrosse. I posted it from postgame yesterday out on the social medias, and I'll stand by this till the end of the time. Joey's going to break Mike Powell's scoring record. Joey's not Mike Powell, and that is in no way a negative against Joey Spallina. Joey's a really, really, really good player. I kind of like, you feel bad for Trey Deer and the car accident he had. It was good to see him, albeit on crutches, at the game yesterday. He's out for the year. Bear Anderson, for one, dynamite nickname. Like, if a dude named Peyton goes by Bear, like, start him. I don't care. Just start him. I don't care the sport, you start him. I think the combination of Joey, Finn, and Bear, the strengths and weaknesses play off each other very well. I look at last year when it was Joey, Hiltz, and Finn. Their strengths were all very similar. They were different players, but they were all so good at ball movement and all that like when it was clicking, my goodness, it was apex. But when you needed something else, it was like, Bear with his size and dodging here gives you a little something else, which, yeah, is Owen Hiltz a better lacrosse player than Peyton Anderson right now? Yeah, but the difference here I think is intriguing. We'll see where that goes. For Syracuse, defense was solid. You look at your top 2 defensive guys, and you got a legitimate pair there. You got a goalie. D-Middy's played well yesterday. That's always been a point of contention here in recent years. We'll see where it all goes, but solid opening effort. Besides the clearing, no major areas of concern coming out of game 1. And I always, in game 1 of a season, I will give clearing a pass. Just grade that as incomplete, figure it out later. If it's still a mess on Saturday, then we revisit and try to figure things out yet again. So a little lacrosse from yesterday. Link pin top of the chat if you'd like to join the show today. Talking lax, talking hoops, talking whatever is on your mind. Normally on Monday, what we do is we promise you, like we promise hard, and then we rip it away from you. Normally on Monday, we promise you that we will have Reds ACC Zoom. This week, Reds not even scheduled on the ACC Zoom. I just assume they give anybody that's playing on Big Monday reprieve from that because Hubert Davis is also not on the list. So today at 11:15, Mike Young will be speaking again. So maybe we can tune in and hear about tractor pulls. But no Red today. And now today I actually have the email. And actually, yeah, I don't even have to guess. I just glazed over it. Paragraph 3. Because of their Monday game, 7 p.m. ESPN, North Carolina's Hubert Davis and Syracuse's Adrian Autry will not be a part of the call. All right, that's reasonable. So we'll hear from Red on that next week, maybe. Not today. We'll maybe get him before the end of postgame tonight. That'll be another situation with a road game that live seems unlikely unless we can find like Carolina's doing the same thing that Syracuse is doing, and you get random road coaches. We'll have to give that. We'll have to look into that a little bit, see if that's a thing somewhere. Note to self: look into that a little bit, see if that's a thing later. We'll try to get some Red, but I think tonight is going to be an interesting tale. I think you just answered the question there, Sean. How does poor little Syracuse get slotted for one but two big Monday games and a Saturday afternoon ABC game later this month? It is against they're all against Carolina and Duke, the two big Mondays on the road in the Triangle, and the ABC Saturday afternoon at home against Carolina. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, and this is why, as we'll get into who's next here in a little bit, and the future of the Orange basketball program. Like, I know for a lot of people around here in the recent years, you have a hard time like seeing through the trees of how it can get better, right? Because locally, and we see the attendance, and we see this, and we see that, and whatever. Look at that. Like, nationally, Syracuse is still a brand. Now, we're at the hinge point here a little bit. Like, if Syracuse goes out on those two big Mondays and that ABC Saturday afternoon and gets slaughtered in all three games, and then, makes a mess of a coaching search and whatever. But, like, Syracuse has been, to Sean's point there, they've been, this year, like, and Syracuse wasn't really getting those games last year, the year before, but this year, they put Syracuse in two big Monday spots against the biggest two draws in the league, right? Duke and Carolina. And then the Saturday afternoon, ABC slot. There's not many of those slots that even exist for college basketball and network television like that during the regular season anymore. So, that means something. And I want to say it means something as far as expectations or if they're going to win. It means something as far as, okay, what do the powers that be nationally into sport and in television and whatnot think about Syracuse as a brand? They didn't put like North Carolina and Virginia Tech on ABC on the middle of a Saturday afternoon. It's North Carolina and Syracuse. Like, that still has meaning as far as brand. Now, will it have meaning as far as game? That's a whole nother thing. When you talk about why people are like, oh, the Syracuse job, who would want to coach here? That's why people would want to coach here, because it's still a job that comes with stuff like that. And if the next coach, whomever it is, gets it going again in a reasonably expedient manner, then you at least got a shot, right? Because those things haven't gone completely away. You can see from that this year, two big Mondays and that game. We also watched a CW 6 o'clock game on Saturday, so there's the other side of the coin. There's the other side of the coin. All right, with that thought of looking forward and all that, should we do it? Should we get into our new exciting segment where we examine, not tonight, we'll do that later on in the program with no wrong answers, Syracuse and North Carolina, but we can examine here into the potential of the future of Syracuse basketball if things go as they seem to be going, and the Orange are indeed looking for a new head coach at the end of the year. We ask this question: who's next?
Mason here. It's time to continue our search for the next Syracuse basketball head coach. With today's candidate, here's Brian.
Oh, that owl's fantastic. And so's that owl. Oh, there's so many owls involved in who's next. Because the owl, you get it. It's a bird thing. Shout out Wild Birds Unlimited. I tried to hang I did hang. I got a Wild Birds Unlimited calendar that, has a bird every month. I put it on the wall yesterday. Too much glare in the lights, unfortunately. It just was a little too shiny when it came to actually putting the bird on the wall. So Max has taken it upstairs, and now he got a calendar out of the deal. So win for him. We do not get to enjoy the snowy owl right now. We are enjoying. There it is. Yeah, we're enjoying the tunes that come with Who's Next. We started this series on Thursday with Jerry McNamara. Why? Because I knew people would lose their ever-loving mind over starting the series with Jerry McNamara. I will say this, Jerry, continues to do a solid job at Siena. Did they sweep the games out in Western New York this weekend? What did Siena do this weekend? Quick check on Jerry. Siena basketball. I know they beat Niagara. Yeah, they blew out Canisius. So, yeah, Siena's now 16-7, still hanging in, I believe, third in the MAC. So they're having a very, very nice season. Yeah, fella Ferda, like, AI just kicked out that music, and I'm like, we're playing this music. Like, I was on the fence a little, but should I do this segment, should I not? Then AI kicked out that music. I'm like, oh, my goodness, we're doing this segment. It is a sign from our AI overlords that this segment need to be done. So we started with Jerry. No longer technically an internal candidate, but he might as well be. Who is going to be the next person that we feature on Who's Next? And the answer is Matt Langel, head coach of Colgate. There he is, Matt Langel with this owl. Look at that guy. Yeah, man, we got so many owls here in the show. It's just fantastic. So Matt Langel, again, like Jerry, Matt, I think, has to be, at minimum, in the mix, in the conversation, just because of what he has done locally at Colgate, what he has done recently, making 5 tournaments in a 6-year span, what he has done against Syracuse, right? Coming to the Dome twice and winning, and then almost winning again last year and doing it in a compelling, exciting 3-point bombing fashion, which made everyone in town just question the very existence of the 2-3 zone. Matt Langel, a New Jersey native, he's been at Colgate now for a while. When did he start at Colgate? He's been at Colgate since 2011, so he's been there a very long time. You look at the overall head coaching record and you see a 54% winning percentage, 253 and 212. That's not like the most exciting thing of all time. But then you remember he's coaching at freaking Colgate. You're like, oh, that's pretty good. Coaching at Colgate. Cut his teeth in as an assistant coach at Penn, then Temple under Fran Dunphy, who's obviously a very respected name in the coaching community. Played his college basketball for Fran at Penn in the late 90s. So Langel's an interesting case for a lot of reasons. I think the one thing you can't argue about Matt Langel, like as far as the actual coaching of basketball, he's clearly very good at that. Like if you're going to win the Patriot League 5 times in a 6-year span, you're going to be good at coaching, because that's not a league that's necessarily won on an overabundance of talent. Yeah, Colgate had good players, but it's not like they were just out-talenting everybody to death in that league. So we know Matt Langel can coach. We know they run some very nice offensive stuff. There's movement, there's things, there's lots of threes, there's a lot going on. Post players, passing, very versatile offense, lots of stuff going on, which I think a lot of people here in Syracuse would view as a pleasant change. What's interesting about Matt here, kind of on the other side of the coin, and what is frankly confusing, he's been at Colgate for 15 years, which, nothing wrong with that. Like, you get one of these jobs, people are always like, oh, you should move on to the next job. Well, you know what? I don't know what he's making at Colgate, but I'm sure it's, plenty enough to live on in Hamilton, New York. So there's, let's see, Matt Langel salary. Colgate is a private institution. Let's see, compensation, $774,000 for Matt Langel. Yeah, I think he's making out all right in Hamilton, New York, on a little bit north of $750,000 a year. So, there's the side of things is like, don't mess with happiness, right? He enjoys coaching Colgate. He does that. What we don't really know is, because his name has not been tied to external jobs a lot. He does a little bit, at least in that picture, look like Jay Wright's younger brother. He's got the same salt and pepper hair thing going on. Not wearing a suit, though. Jay Wright wouldn't be caught dead in a polo shirt. Absolutely not. So, here's my question about Langill. Is it because you'd think, right, Colgate to Syracuse is still a pretty big jump. You could argue that Colgate to Syracuse is potentially a larger jump in some ways than Siena to Syracuse, just in the leagues they play in. Neither the Patriot nor the MAC, obviously, they're both low-level leagues, usually back-end seeds in tournaments, but the Patriot League with their academics and their other stuff, it is just such a different operation in many ways that Matt Langill is dealing with different stuff than you necessarily do at other programs at that level. So here's what I'm curious about. And I don't know the answer. He's never really talked publicly about it in any meaningful way. Not that he needs to. Because you can see, like, a guy like him, you could easily see taking, like, an A10 job or something like that. And, like, if you're trying to climb the ladder, that's kind of one of the natural steps you do for climbing that ladder. On the other hand, like, 3 years ago now, right? When Micah Shrewsbury, because he's in the same year as head coach, got hired from Penn State to move to Notre Dame, Langill was also, at least tangentially, I believe he got an interview, in the mix for the Notre Dame job. So once he finally got the opportunity to get a look at a major conference job, he took the opportunity to get a look. Now, he didn't get the job, and he's still at Colgate a few years later. But I'd be intrigued by, his level. Just some guys don't want necessarily the big time. Like, making $750 large, coaching college basketball, basically never in danger of losing his job in Hamilton. That's on the list of things that are, like, bad about life. That none of that is it. Like, that's pretty good, right? Like, he's got a good deal going. Like, that's not a bad life that Matt Langill is living right now in Colgate. He's got 3 kids. I don't know quite how old they are. A daughter and 2 sons. So that could be part of it. Though if you move from Hamilton to Syracuse, it's obviously a little less jarring than bip-bopping around all over the place. And you look at what he's done here. Last year they had a losing record, but prior to that it was 24 wins, 25 wins, 14-2 in the COVID season, 23 wins, 26-25. They made the tournament 5 times in 6 years. Came oh so close as like 15 seeds to winning a game a few times. I think he's a really, really good basketball coach. I think he's a really, really good basketball coach. The other question when you look at a guy like Matt Langill is recruiting. When you are at Colgate, you are not involved in major level recruiting. You're involved in some really specific recruiting. They have some really smart guys. They got some really talented players, but you have not been involved in big boy recruiting. His previous stops were an assistant at Penn and an assistant at Temple. Obviously, Penn in the Ivy League, you're not involved in that level of recruiting. Temple, you're at least touching the waters of it a little bit. And Temple had some massive seasons when he was an assistant for Fran Dunphy. Their last 2 years there, it's 29 wins, 26 wins. They had great success during his time as an assistant at Temple. So here's the question. If Langill were to be dropped in as head coach at Syracuse, I'd have no concern, ball in the air, of him managing the basketball game. None. He's been a head coach for 15 years. He knows what he's doing. He's very good at that. No concern. I don't think I'd have a ton of concern either with the idea of him being the face of the program. Like, I don't think he's like an overwhelming, gregarious guy, but it's not like he's hiding in the corner. He was always available for interviews and whatnot ahead of Syracuse and Colgate games, always friendly, always nice with his time, things like that. I think he'd, obviously there's a step up in how that stuff works when you take a job like Syracuse versus a job like Colgate. I think he'd be able to handle that fine. My main situation, it wouldn't even be the fundraising aspect that goes along with a job like this. Colgate's got a lot more money hanging around than you realize. Like the private jets that are landing in Hamilton when they're playing some of their bigger sporting events, like they got some rich donors tied to a school that's just a little bit south of the Ivies. Not that the Patriot League would ever admit to that when it comes academically. So I think Langle can hang in the conversations in the rooms like that as well. The question is recruiting. There is no evidence one way or another, right, that Matt Langle, that he can play in that field. That doesn't mean he can't. It just means he has not as of yet. Like, there's never a scenario where you're going to be out there battling for McDonald's All-Americans as the head coach at Colgate. That's not a scenario that exists. It's not a scenario that exists. But would Matt Langle, especially in this era of NIL and how much that influences recruiting, would Matt Langle, we talked about it with Jerry last week, and we think the answer is yes with Jerry. Would Matt Langle excite the Syracuse alum and donor base enough to shake enough coins out of the pockets to be able to, A, afford the top guys, and then would B, in a role that he really hasn't been in before, would he be able to go and get him? C, what also goes along with that, and to your guys' point in the chat, with a gig like that, you can't really just transplant your whole staff over with you. If you hire a guy like Langle, you need to bring in some assistants that have played in those recruiting waters. Ironically, Red Autry would fit that. Yeah, we know that's not going to happen. Ironically, Red would be one of the people that you'd like to have in that situation. Back in the day, also ironically, like Mike Hopkins would be a guy that you'd like to have in that situation. Go figure. So that's the one thing. I don't know what his ties are to that. He's been in Hamilton coaching for 15 years. It's hard to say. Like, that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that when you're looking at his assistants right now, it's not like you're dealing with people that, are coming from, like, his lead assistant is some guy named Trey Montgomery, who played at Samford, not Stanford, and was an assistant prior to Colgate at Eastern University and Penn. Like, that's his lead assistant. You're looking at other guys on his staff. There's a guy who his previous job prior to being an assistant at Colgate was at SUNY Morrisville. So, it's just like he can't bring this staff with him. Like, his third assistant doesn't even get a bio on the website. He's got a nice smiley picture, but Kalen Johnson has no words. So you look at where they are at and where these people are, you can't transplant that with you. You have to have some other stuff. Yeah, it is the Brent Price situation with James Franklin. It's bizarre that went down like that. I don't think Red would do that. I don't think Red would do that, especially an assistant coach in basketball. Man, like, could you imagine? You're sitting right there. You're just sitting right there. You're just right there the whole time. That would be just absolutely brutal. So I don't even know where to suggest he to go to fill that job, what kind of connections make sense, but you need to go get some people that have that experience that also mesh well with a guy that they really wouldn't have worked with or necessarily crossed paths with before. So that, I think, is something that would be vital and interesting when it comes to a Matt Langle candidacy for the job. And yeah, Sean, to your point, like, the next head coach or the next staff, because it doesn't always have to be the head coach, right? Like, you could hire the next coach, you could hire a great recruiter, depending on who it is, but as long as, the lead assistant also has the X's and O's buttoned up or whatever, you can go that way. Matt Langle has the X's and O's buttoned up. And I'm not saying he's a bad recruiter. I'm just saying he's been swimming in a different pool than what Syracuse operates. Like, you take the Syracuse job, you're recruiting against Duke and Louisville and North Carolina and Connecticut, and Villanova. That's what happens the day you sign that contract. You're in the deep end of the pool. You're looking at the McDonald's All-American roster. You're looking at the ESPN Top 100 recruit list. and you're trying to get some of those guys, and you're looking at the transfer portal, and you're trying to get some of those guys at the top. Whether it works out right or not, you're trying to get the ACC's leader in assists. You're trying to get guys like that. You're trying to get a guy like William Kyle, who's top 5 in the country in blocks per game right now. So, honestly, that's my only question about Langle. I think he'd be well suited to the other aspects of the job. I think he'd be well suited to the other aspects of the job. That said, it's a major question. Like, that's not a minor question. That's not a gloss over it question. That's a major question. And it's one where, like, if I'm John Wildhack or whoever else might be involved in an interview with Matt Langle, and I would say this, because Colgate right now, what's Colgate right now? They're not as good this year. They're still fine. They're 13-10. This is one where usually you hire the hot, mid-major head coach. Colgate's cooled off a little bit here in the last few years, so they are 7-3 in the league. Usually you want to hire a coach coming off a tournament trip and all that. Langle is like the one guy where it wouldn't bother me at all. Like, I think Jerry needs to make the tournament to legitimately be in the mix. Or if there's other guys out there that we've talked about and will talk about in this series, they need to do something in the tournament this year. Langle's done that. He took freaking Colgate to the tournament 5 times in 6 years. Like, point proven. You're good on that. The other good side of that, too, is if you're making this change and Colgate, is not in the NCAA tournament this year, now it's something where you can actually even get the jump on it, knowing, hey, if this is your guy, you got your guy, and you can put it in place. You talk about getting ready for the portal, which opens after the title game this year. You could have more runway to get that ramped up. But, if I'm John Wildhack, if I'm the hiring committee, assuming this happens, and I'm sitting there with Matt Langle, and we got him in the office, I'm asking him, all right, how do you recruit? Walk me through the recruiting process. Who is going to help you with that? Somebody mentioned Alex Klein in the chat. Do you think of keeping him? What do you do at the GM spot? Because I wouldn't automatically I wouldn't automatically clean house of Alex Klein after the season. This is not a throw the baby out with the bathwater situation. I'm not saying you automatically keep him if you have a guy you like working with and knows that stuff coming from wherever, but I'd say a guy like Alex and Langle coming for where he's coming, I think that could be a very useful, type of person to keep a little continuity when it comes to player retention and getting new guys through the portal and immediately launching into recruiting and all that good stuff going forward. Then I'm also asking, all right, who are you targeting for your staff? Who are you going to get that is a higher level guy that we're going to put on this staff that we're going to make things sing? That's going to help in recruiting. That's going to coach this, coach that, coach whatever. Those are really the two main things. Yeah, sure, you want to hear about his basketball and whatever. Those are my main two questions. I think the rest of it, Matt Langle checks the box. And actually a third question. I'd ask him, why haven't you really been involved in these conversations before? I'd just be curious to know the answer. What family reasons, you just like being there, don't mess with happiness, whatever. I think there's plenty of reasonable answers to that question, that going after a Syracuse job for Langle, living an hour down the road, would affect, significantly less on, life and all that than just randomly going after other jobs around the country. So I'd be intrigued to know that, because I think that would tell us just a lot about the guy. I think those are 3 really specific Matt Langle type questions that you'd have to ask going in to something like this. So there we are. Who's next? Our second one in our series of Who's Next. We discussed Jerry last week. Today we discussed Colgate's Matt Langle, who, even though Colgate not necessarily looking like a tournament team this year, though they could easily win the Patriot League yet again, even though they're only 13-10 right now. What's the Patriot League standings? I think regardless of that, I've seen enough from Langle. Colgate's second in the Patriot League. Navy's 9-1. Colgate's 7-3. So Colgate's going to be right in it with a chance to make the tournament again this year. after having already gone 5 times in 6 years prior to having a slightly down year last year when they basically had to turn over the entire roster. So, yeah, Sean, that would be a great answer. Happy at Colgate, was raising my kids, whatever, good life. We were winning. We were having a great time. Colgate's a great university. Colgate is a great university. Hamilton's a nice little town. There's plenty of reasons to stay there. You're making $750,000 in Hamilton. Life's not bad for Matt Langle. The foliage. Think of the foliage. The apple picking. My goodness. I mean, fantastic. I don't know. I think, when it push comes to shove, assuming the move gets made on Red at the end of the year, I think Matt Langle is a guy you have to seriously kick the tires on. And I think you're really missing the boat if you don't at least thoroughly examine this guy, because he's intriguing. I think he's a really good basketball coach. The main question is, can you get the players? Can you get the players? And is it just NIL? Where's he at with the ties on that? Where's he at with the ties on recruiting? And would that hire excite the fan base enough to open up pocketbooks to then go immediately get the players? Because whoever you're hiring, the portal's going to open in a few weeks, and then there you go. So there we are. Little who's next? Who is next today? We've gone Jerry, gone Matt Langle. Here, I got to write down. I got my pad of paper here. I'm not showing you my pad. It's got names on it. This is big time secret. Big time secret. Hey, Gavendo, I sent you a DM on the X the other day. Send me your address. Mike wants to send you that beer you won the other day. Send me your address, and he'll get you that beer. Gavendo won beer the other day on the show. Free beer. Shout out to Mike in Connecticut for hooking Gavendo up with free beer for calling in. And yeah, not a sponsor, but there was a lot going on there. I mean, Mike's hanging out. Simply Sweet Sisters candles. He's slinging free beer. Lots of stuff. And Holmesy, that's the question, right? Because depending on whom else ends up being in the mix, if you don't hire a guy like Matt Langle, it's not because of the basketball, right? It's I need to hear that he's not the best. I don't know that he can't recruit. He's not in a position to recruit right now, right? Can he play in that other pool? Because recruiting for the Patriot League isn't nothing. That's a really specific skill set of guys and academics and whatever you're going after in the Patriot League. It is so wildly different than what you're doing recruiting-wise at Syracuse that I don't know. We'll see. I just think Matt Langle is a guy that I would put him, regardless of how things go, put him on the interview list. He's a guy that deserves an interview to be asked those questions, because I would be very intrigued to hear the answer to those questions. Yeah, should we actually do an episode of Who's Next where we talk about Red? Red keeping his job. I still say the best outcome of all this is the Orange go on a tear, and we're doing this series for years on end, and it becomes a running joke. That would be the best outcome for all involved on Who's Next. On Who's Next. Oh, it looks like Avendo has sent me something. Thank you, man. I will pass that along. And beer will be coming your way. There we go. So a little Who's Next. We'll figure out who else from this list we talk about on Thursday. I'd say, yeah, here's the thing, fellow footer. Whichever way it goes, if you're hiring a guy that's not an X and O guy, I want to make sure that he's got a major X and O guy that you're leaning on the staff. And conversely, if you're hiring a guy like Langle, who is a legitimate X and O guy, I want to make sure that your staff is filled with some go-get-the-guys, right? And this is why I'm kind of intrigued. We'll tie it into football here a little bit. So Fran Brown, we know Fran Brown. Fran Brown, who attends every Syracuse sporting event because he has players in every team. He had to go watch Joe Flaherty stand on the sideline yesterday while wearing a dart hat. He had his backup quarterback on lockdown. Much like he can go to the basketball games now and watch his wide receiver of the future. So Yeah, I'd say if SU beats North Carolina and Duke, Red can keep his job. Like, that possibility's still out there. We're just all assuming it's not going to happen. All the best, too. Like, if he starts winning games, then you keep your job. That's very system. Yeah, fellow Furter, to your point, I think that's very true in this day and age. Yeah, Matt and Wyatt, like Langle a few years ago when he was at the apex of his time at Colgate, like he had an interview, like he might have been the final two. Like I think he was legitimately in it at Notre Dame when they hired Micah Shrewsbury. Notre Dame may be having regrets on that. So we'll see. You always like when they play loose with a flair. That won't happen with Langle. I wouldn't necessarily say that. Like Colgate, like when they were really cooking, yeah, I mean, it was a very precise system in many ways, but they were running and gunning and bombing and lots of stuff. Just to imagine that with a higher level of athlete, and it's potentially intriguing. So, I don't know. I think he's, I think he's absolutely worth taking a look at. Absolutely worth taking a look at. Yeah, Hubert Davis can't outcoach Red. That's not nothing. That's not nothing. What? You're not buying what Red said about why Donnie came off the bench? I don't know. I think this whole thing is going to be just fascinating to watch as it plays out. Will Donnie start tonight? You know, lots of questions. What's funny is like the reason that Red gave for Donnie coming off the bench in a scouting report situation makes it like really, really easy to just put him back in. Be like, well, we scouted Carolina. We need Donnie out there. Like, realistically, I look at the start of the game and, you know, the ball's moving around and whatnot. I'm like, all right, maybe you bring Donnie off the bench. I don't know. I don't know. It's it'll be very, very interesting. Hey, look who's in the chat. It's Jordan Capozzi. You can't start Donnie tonight, right? Oh, they can, Jordan. They can. I have zero inside information on the matter. Man. What's funny is just the way Red's getting judged for everything right now. He almost can't make a right decision. Like, you don't start Donnie and you get jumped. Like, say Carolina jumped Syracuse early. Very possible. And that could happen with or without Donnie in the lineup. If you get jumped early, no matter what you did with the starting lineup, immediately becomes the wrong decision. William Kyle has a tough spot tonight because, you know, unlike Notre Dame, Carolina's got the big people. Carolina's got the big people down low. All right, let's get ready to roll with a little no wrong answers to get you ready for tonight's basketball game.
Hi, Mason again. It's time to find out exactly what's going to happen in the next Syracuse game. This is No Wrong Answers. Here's Brian.
Thank you, Mason. The next game is tonight, like this very night. It is Monday morning right now. The game tips off in less than 8 hours. It is a 7 o'clock tip-off. Dean Dome tonight, Chapel Hill. It snowed in the area down there a couple days ago. Everyone's panicked, hoarding milk and barbecue dry rub. I don't know what they hoard down there in North Carolina. I know this. They don't have any salt or plows. Whew, it's hairy down there when the weather gets funky. But Carolina's entering at 17-4. They're currently ranked 16th in the country. For a team that's 17-4, their fan base is extremely soured on what Carolina's got going on right now. The Orange, ending their 4-game losing streak, enter the game at 13-9. First of 2 Research Triangle Big Mondays this year for Syracuse. They'll be down in Durham in less than a month to take on the Duke Blue Devils. So good luck with all that, the quick turnarounds for both of those games. Carolina here, here's part of why their fan base is freaking out as they like to do. They're 17-4, pretty good. Just 5-3 in the league. Syracuse enters the day at 4-5 in the league, so technically the two teams are only a game and a half apart in the standings, though, because there's 8 million teams in the ACC. There's actually 4 teams in between Carolina and Syracuse right now on the standing page, looking at it at the moment. So what do we have tonight? The Orange are coming off the win against Notre Dame over the weekend, so that was good to see. Carolina had recently lost 3 of 4, road games all. They lost at SMU, got their butts kicked at SMU by 16, bounced back with a tight win at home over Wake Forest, then got swept on the California trip by Stanford and Cal. What Chris Bell do in that game? Looking for Chris Bell. Chris Bell, oh my goodness, bad clicking. Pop-ups! Chris Bell in that game did... What did he do? A rousing 6 points for Chris Bell in that game. And 1 rebound. A very Chris Bell kind of game in the win against North Carolina. But since then, right when it felt like Carolina was at their lowest, fire Hubert Davis, all that stuff going on, they beat Notre Dame. Now we get it. Notre Dame is crap, so they took care of Notre Dame at home. But then here's where it really turned. They went to Virginia. This was midweek last week. They went into Virginia and beat Virginia by 5. And that was a game they were down in the first half, came back and won. So that was impressive. And then they go on the road to Georgia Tech, who's, as we know, not that great. And they won it easily over the weekend on Saturday, 91-75. And now here comes Syracuse, who has just ended a 4-game losing streak in their own right. So Carolina's good. Like, is Carolina great? I don't know. What I do know is this. Carolina has one of, and this is a great, great list of freshmen in the country. And Syracuse will see a lot of them. With Duke coming up, they'll see a lot of them. Caleb Wilson tonight for Carolina is the real deal. Freshman, he's averaging 20 points a game. He can score it every which way. He's not a great three-point shooter as of yet, but he can make them. He's also averaging almost 10 rebounds a game. Like, Caleb Wilson is the real deal for North Carolina. He's 6'10". He's an unbelievable athlete. He's had some just crazy dunks this year. He's a guy that, like William Kyle, Donnie Freeman, Sadiq White, they are going to have their hands all the way full of Caleb Wilson tonight. This guy is freaking phenomenal. And then what makes it even harder, and this is what makes it very Carolina, right? Carolina's always got just some big freaking dude. This guy transferred in, I believe, from Arizona. Is that where he came from? Henry Visar is a 7-foot tall, really built, thick, 230-pound center who's just hard to move on the inside. And he, playing alongside Wilson, is averaging 17 and 9. So this is a really, really tough front line for Syracuse to go against. And what is worrisome is that against these bigger, and certainly Visar is physical, Wilson is just a freaky NBA athlete. Like, all right, how's Donnie going to deal with that? Will Donnie start today? Major questions coming up tonight. Sadiq White is rail thin. How's he going to handle, guys that athletically are going to be able to do that? And we've seen, William Kyle, as good as William is, now he's going against 7-foot, 230 in Visar? Yee. That could be a problem here tonight in the game. Like, the matchups are not ideal on the inside when you look at what's going on inside with those two guys that Syracuse is going to have to go against. So no wrong answers. Let's get into it. Syracuse and North Carolina. The main question tonight is, will Donnie Freeman start? He came off the bench for reasons last game. Yeah, reasons last game. I don't think we really believe what Red said about it being a scouting report situation. What the actual reasons are, I don't know. It worked. And that is what is so interesting. Donnie coming off the bench worked. Syracuse played better. North Carolina, Notre Dame. So let's keep that in mind. Syracuse played better. Ball movement was crisp early. JJ made a lot of shots. We'll see how that translates into the road game. But Donnie, I think Red's going to start him tonight. I don't know. Donnie starts tonight. I'm a little worried, though, against that front line of Wilson and Visar. 15 points and 6 rebounds for Freeman tonight, but I think it's going to be an inefficient outing for Donnie Freeman in this one. I'm also worried about William Kyle going against the size inside. I think he gets physically taken out of this game. 7 points, 5 rebounds, only 1 block shot in the game for Kyle due to going against those two guys. So if those two are struggling, who's going to step up? It needs to be the guards, right? No wrong answers. J.J. Starling. J.J. will be gunning in this game, certainly coming off the big first half he had on Saturday. I think JJ makes enough. We'll give him 16 points in the game tonight. Nate King's also playing really well. I think Nate will have a solid game tonight. We'll give him 15 points. He's not going to approach 30 again against the Tar Heels. Nate George, 10 turnovers, 10 assists, 0 turnovers last game. You know, Freudian slip, but man, we're used to seeing it the other way around of late. I think Nate's okay tonight. Carolina, freewheeling game. There's a lot of, stuff going on. 8 assists tonight for George. He's not going 0 turnovers again, though. 6 turnovers. That could be a problem tonight for Nate George. What of one Cayenne Anthony? DMP CD. Coach's decision after halftime on Saturday against Notre Dame. I think it's going to be another struggle of a game for Melo's kid tonight. I wonder if Melo will be there after the big debut of NBC's Sunday Night Basketball last night between the Lakers and the Knicks in the Garden. Cayenne will have 5 points. I don't think we're going to get a lot from Cayenne in this game. I can see a solid Tyler Betsy game tonight. He's the kind of guy that can thrive against the Carolina. Bigger guy, can shoot. Let's go 4 threes tonight for Betsy. I think Betsy's shooting will be one of the best things the Orange have going for them in this ball game tonight. Caleb Wilson and Henry Visar, though, for Carolina, they are a problem. They are a major problem. Wilson's going to be a very, 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 very high draft pick coming this year, and Henry Visar is very, 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 very large. They are going to combine in the game for 45 points and 25 rebounds. Those two. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Can the Orange keep it going after Notre Dame? It was nice to end the losing streak. Unfortunately, quick turnaround on the road. Dean Dome, one of the best teams in the ACC. When they're right, one of the best teams in the country. They're not always right. Final score tonight from Chapel Hill. Big Monday. North Carolina 95, Syracuse 76. I just don't think the Orange are going to be able to slow down the Tar Heels at all tonight. Regardless, though, we'll talk about it after. YouTube, you're here. Come back here right after the game. Right here. If you need to know how to get back, click the subscribe button. Give it the old clickety-click. Turn your notifications on, and then you don't need to remember it all. Your phone and your computer and all that, they'll just remind you. It's a beautiful thing. After the game, we'll take your calls. We'll do all the stuff that we like to do after the game. We'll see if you can get you red. You never know with these road games. And we'll break down Syracuse and North Carolina and what we will see in the Dean Dome tonight. There we are. Little no wrong answers for Syracuse and North Carolina. Yeah, that did happen. You speak Nate George. That was Damon Stoudemire's first year, right? Down in Atlanta. That was the year like Georgia Tech wasn't good, but didn't they beat both Carolina and Duke that year on these crazy things? Yeah, maybe Red just makes another random lineup change. Like William Kyle's the point guard. Like we never know what's gonna happen. We never know what's gonna happen. Yeah, I went against your prediction of an upset, Gavendo. We went the other way with it. We went the other way. I'm just not feeling it. Special segment of Who's Next in postgame. We don't need to rush Who's Next. We're doing 2 a week. Sean Lewis. It's barely February. It's Groundhog's Day. Phil Shaw is the shadow. Everyone was freezing in Punxsutawney this morning at 7:30, where it was 1 degree out when they were waving a groundhog around while wearing top hats and tails. That's a weird event, man. That's a weird event. Like if you get into the you're the guys in the top hats at Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, you have entered some sort of weird groundhog tuxedo cult. I don't even know what those guys are doing. It's fascinating. 6 more weeks of winter, which means we got plenty of time to discuss who's next, Sean. Now, maybe if we're having trouble getting through the list later, we'll ramp it up. I imagine post game tonight we'll have plenty to discuss. Well, yeah, it will be, but we don't need an official segment of who's next to discuss it. Maybe we could have an unofficial segment of who's next to discuss. That's tonight, Sean. It's barely noon. We don't need to figure out tonight for a good long while. Again, looking ahead, shows upcoming this week. Tonight, Syracuse, Carolina are playing at 7 o'clock tonight, which means the game will end 9-ish, which means that's when you come back here, and we will do the whole post-game thing with you. Wednesday evening, Jordan, who was just in the chat, will be by again with our TPS report, 8 o'clock on Wednesday. Thursday, we're live in the 315 with certainly another edition of Who's Next and more No Wrong Answers. We'll probably do a double edition of No Wrong Answers on Thursday for Hoops and Lax. And then Saturday, basketball postgame show after Virginia around about 2, where we may just weave in a little lacrosse because the games will be happening simultaneously. So there we go. There we go. All right, we've done it here. We've been live in the 315 here on this Monday morning. Enjoy your Monday afternoon, everybody. It's lunchtime. I'm going to go eat something. We'll talk to you again tonight after the game.
Thanks for watching the 315 with Brian Higgins. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. We'll see you next time.